context. But when it comes time to make the document, he still decides to run with those same debunked claims. I figured that this had to be an oversight, what with the tremendous amount of Control-C, Control-V-ing, and I was willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Until I realized he then went on to double down on his debunked narrative and add a completely new line that wasn't in the original Reddit post. Quote, "The reason why he only has this one clip of the real Basil is because that is the only time Basil had griefed him. In that one game that was in February. That's why he had to use fake footage earlier." That's why I had to use fake footage? This is the only time you ever griefed me? Which one is it, Basil? He literally admitted he believes I was telling the truth about the 2 prior encounters that predated the PizzaBot debacle. But then, with no rhyme and no reason, he flips on a fucking dime and goes back to his original batshit insane conspiracy theory that I was lying about our history to make him look bad. I just have one question. Why would I do this? Like, let's look at this from Basil's point of view for a moment. If the only time I had ever been griefed by him was during the PizzaBot encounter, what grudge would I hold against him? I literally admit I had no issue with Basil griefing the PizzaBot members. I know we all laughed at Basil for what he did, but in actuality, I'm not going to condemn him for trying to waste the time of the cheaters. And then went on to affirm this statement in part 2. Now, I myself stated that despite my long history of avoiding Basil at every turn, I didn't object to what he was doing to the cheaters specifically. Funny, yes. Absurd, absolutely. Immoral, I don't think so. Conversely, when he was debating me on one of his sock puppet accounts, I, in patronizing fashion, made him a cute little Microsoft Paint graph to showcase when griefing is justified and when it isn't. The PizzaBot encounter fell under the middle category, which has a nice blue check right next to it. Why would I go through all this effort of making up a fake backstory with a fake timeline and a fake series of events to get back at someone who, by my own admission in the video, isn't doing anything wrong here? What rationalization could possibly exist that would have goaded me into doing such a thing? Well, let's ask Basil. I have a feeling PizzaBot members had this glorious idea, and you went through with it since they were so nice to you. That's only what I think, though. Who knows what they actually did with you? Is this even worthy of a response? PizzaBot put me up to this. That's the story you're going with. It's very evident that Basil is getting really, really desperate. Like, you can't unironically believe this, right? I wouldn't be bringing this up if this was just an offhand speculation from a year ago, but Basil, to this day, openly rejects my summary of events. And he has to, because if he doesn't, every decision I made in framing his actions the way I did is perfectly justifiable, and his grand narrative of me being some vengeful TF tuber purposefully defaming innocent people for money and clout, it wouldn't hold any water. I really shouldn't feel the need to debunk this. It's pretty much self-evidently bullshit. But to really drive home just how fucking delusional you'd have to be to even consider this possibility, let's run through all the counter-arguments. 1. When detailing my encounters with Basil in response to his Reddit post, I explicitly point out how he never used in-game chat during his tirades. In a follow-up to this claim, Basil would validate my statement. So the question is obvious. How would I know beforehand that Basil doesn't communicate when he's in the midst of a griefing session had I not experienced it myself prior? The answer is, I wouldn't. 2. As mentioned in the video, I would leave every lobby I queued into if Basil ever ended up on my team. If Basil never fucked with me in the past, why would I ever feel the need to do that? 3. Lots of people went after PizzaBot. They literally had a 200 fucking page long manifesto outlining their beefs with individual users in great detail. Why would some random motherfucker named after an herb be at the top of that priority list? In the 218 pages containing hundreds of screenshots lambasting dozens of different high tour schizos, Basil shows up in exactly 2 comments. If PizzaBot were to ever give me a hit job, it wouldn't be on you. 4. What makes you think PizzaBot could persuade me in the first place? I can't believe I actually have to repeat this more than once, but PizzaBot and I were never friends. I reached out to them to record footage for my cheating video, played some missions with their members, and then once I had all that I needed, I cut all contact with them and never queued together again. I was even told behind the scenes that one of the co-owners of PizzaBot was actually one of the players in the cheating group that fucked with me in part 2. It's just hearsay, it's nothing conclusive, but it wouldn't surprise me. We're not friends. And 5, what I would argue is the most undeniable piece of evidence I have, after the PizzaBot encounter with Basil had wrapped up, I messaged one of my friends who I thought was present during the second encounter with Basil about the events that had just unraveled. In hindsight, he was probably just at a Discord call and not in the game itself, but that's not the point. The point is, this is direct evidence of me referencing a past negative experience with Basil completely off the record, and Basil knows this happened, because I showed him this screenshot in the first response I made to his original Reddit post. It might have even been an integral component of him actually believing I wasn't making things up. Nothing I just mentioned is hidden or trapped inside my own head. These are all counter-arguments that are based on public information that I was able to think up in literal minutes. And after relaying these arguments to Basil, alongside mountains upon mountains of evidence showcasing that I was in fact griefed by him on 2 separate occasions before the PizzaBot encounter, I genuinely thought he'd come to his senses and reevaluate his perspective. There was just no way you could keep believing this narrative after even a moment of introspection. I wrapped up one of my replies with the following: "You unironically bought into the Wheezy is buddy-buddy with PizzaBot argument, there's no saving you." To which Basil would boldly reply, "Yes. Yes, I did." You might think that someone this ideologically driven, this willing to ignore the most obvious facts on the planet, has to be trolling. There's just no way this is an actual person trying to posit a legitimate criticism. But no, he's 100% real. And guess what? There's still much more. I know he's been chopped to fine ash at this point, but knocking down false accusations with evidence is much more cathartic than just writing someone off as a crank and moving on. So we're gonna rapid fire through the rest of the document and burn through whatever credibility Basil has left. Hard to go any lower than 0, but if anyone could do it, it'd be him. First up, Basil accuses me of calling him a TacoBot member. This never happened. What I actually said is that Basil was an associate of TacoBot members. After all this drama occurred, Basil proceeded to share this screenshot among his TacoBot associates. I knew for a fact that Basil wasn't a member of TacoBot because one of the first things I do when gathering recon on a particular player is checking the TacoBot archives to see if they had any kind of prior affiliation. Basil's name was there, but not as a member. He was a blacklist recipient. He claims that he posted the screenshot of me playing with cheaters on a site that wasn't owned by either PizzaBot or TacoBot. Which, is that supposed to clear you of anything? The site he's referring to is called MVM Lobby, which provides data on tour progress and leaderboard rankings for all public profiles. And it is absolutely true that he did make this image public within the comments section on my profile. But, MVM Lobby isn't Twitter. It's not like every single comment is placed front and center on some kind of lolcow bulletin board. It's a niche website inhabited by a niche group of hardcore MVM players, and judging by Basil's profile, he's well aware of the types of people that like to hang around there. Furthermore, I ended up getting bum rushed by former, adjacent, and then current TacoBot members within 30 minutes of the PizzaBot mission wrapping up. It got so out of control that one of their members actually apologized on behalf of their spurgery. The only way this could possibly happen without Basil's intervention is if a player related to TacoBot decided to check my MVM Lobby comments conveniently right after the encounter, oblivious to the fact that I had just played with their nemesis group. The right people checking on the right profile at exactly the right time while having no knowledge of the situation from a third party seems to be a bit far-fetched, doesn't it? Well, that's because it's a fucking lie. While I was chipping away at editing this video, I found something really damning. If we go back to Basil's document, we can see that he claims to have posted the link on a third-party website, nothing else. However, if we go back to the original Reddit post on the Wayback Machine, there's an entire section that was purposefully omitted from the document claiming, and I quote, "I have also uploaded the screenshot on an MVM Discord server. That server is not occupied by just TacoBot members. Some left TacoBot long ago, some were not even in TacoBot to begin with, and some just dislike cheaters. Not occupied by just TacoBot members," implying that there were some members of the organization in the Discord, and he was well aware of that. Question: why did Basil feel the need to remove this section from his Reddit post when comprising his new document? Well, I think we all know why. Because no matter what way you spin it, my point still stands. Basil did share this screenshot among TacoBot associates, deleted all admission of doing so, and tried to frame me as pulling the ol' "everyone who I don't like is TacoBot" card. Good try on the cover-up though. Hit up Wayback sometime, they might take that shit down for you. Next he goes on to claim that I was forced to cut out a section of my video for quote, "starting a witch hunt," and that my stated reasoning of calling Basil a no-no word wasn't true. I have no clue where Basil finds the arrogance to think he knows the reason for my video getting age restricted better than I do. YouTube support will literally give you the reason why. If you were around for the first week of the video's upload, you might vaguely remember this clip where I endearingly refer to Basil as a continuous source of inspiration to me. As it turns out, YouTube really doesn't like that word, and you'll be met with the same action as if you were to drop an N-bomb. Regardless of my views on this policy, it's YouTube's house, so I better take my shoes off. They were surprisingly lenient in removing the flag. All I had to do was cut out that 5-second clip and the video got reinstated. Here is literally the screenshot from the day that I got hit with the claim. Basil isn't just wrong, he's obviously wrong. On top of that, I wholeheartedly reject the idea that the video was a witch hunt at all. If calling out individual people or individual groups for their questionable behavior falls under that umbrella, then by that logic, I've started about a dozen witch hunts on this channel before, and surprise surprise, none of those videos are age restricted. He then went on to paste this screenshot of me originally stating that the video wasn't going to discuss the ongoing feud between TacoBot and PizzaBot. Now, unlike many of his other statements, Basil doesn't take the liberty of drawing a goofy ass conclusion on this one. But if there wasn't a negative implication to be made, it wouldn't be in his document. Basil would also end up using this as the banner for his expose Twitter account. Evidently, he assumes that I was lying the whole time. But take a look at the date on that comment. February 22nd, 2022. Only 5 days after the PizzaBot encounter. Remember, this was in the very early stages of conceptualizing the video. Over 2 months before it had been completed. I originally viewed the swarming of my profile as petty drama that wasn't worth talking about. It was only after that experience where PizzaBot would detail their history with TacoBot to me. And that's when I learned that this rabbit hole went way deeper than I thought. It wasn't until I discovered PizzaBot's 200-page long manifesto against the numerous people that went after them that I decided to make it a focal point in the video. That's it. No hidden agenda, no grand conspiracy, I just learned more information and changed my mind. Next, he claims that I took cheated loot from the PizzaBot missions, which, by the way, is 100% correct. Remember, the original video started off as me just trying to test out whether or not cheated missions were on par with speedrunners. I said as much in part 2. The original video was supposed to be like a 10-minute analysis on how quickly cheated missions were completed, with maybe a couple of minutes of ethics discussion thrown in for good measure. The morality surrounding it was interesting, and something I did want to talk about, but I was very much learning as I went. I didn't have a strong position one way or the other. It wasn't until I got all the footage I needed that I established the stance I have today, that the normalization of taking cheated loot will pose a threat to the longevity of MVM as a game mode. Since then, I've held true to that principle, and haven't knowingly taken any cheated loot. Which is why it shocked me to learn that at the end of Basil's document, he accuses me of doing just that. I actually distinctly remember the game he's talking about, as it happened mere days after I read the doc in full. And shocker, Basil's leaving out key information once again. As you can see by the screenshot Basil provides, I joined their group on the last wave. Now, fair enough, there are 2 heavies on the team. Even when focusing down one giant robot, I should still be able to see their miniguns flick with inhuman precision at least a couple of times. Problem is, neither of those heavies were cheating. It was the scout. Like, come on. Do you really think I'd ever be able to catch that? Why in a million years would I expect someone playing scout on the last wave of decoy to be a cheater? People aimbot for efficiency purposes to get to the loot menu quicker. Scout, even with cheats, comes up short in that realm when compared to all the other classes. After we completed that mission, I ended up queuing for one of the Big Rock missions to finish up my tour, and